I'm Kate Holmes. I am the host of Put Down the Mascara, a podcast that really tries to cut through the bullshit and talk to us about how to live authentically. And we are here with Nicole. Nicole is a divorce coach. It is an up-and-coming industry that has such great value because as you are divorcing, it's emotional. And there are so many puzzle pieces and moving parts and things that you need to think about. We don't all know that. Mm-hmm. And so, Nicole, tell us a little bit about the work that you do.
Yeah, so I am a divorce coach, but I specialize in high conflict divorces because there's a huge difference between, say, a regular divorce and a high conflict divorce.
Yes.
There's things that you need to do a little bit differently. You need to plan a little bit differently. So that's my role, and I like to support men or women that are going through it, and kind of be their sounding board and have them maybe think about some things that they wouldn't have thought about on their own. Because it is a difficult process and it's emotional. You can't think outside the box sometimes.
And you can't take the emotion out of it sometimes,
right. Yeah.
Too. And those things that get really emotional are birthdays and holidays
mm-hmm.
and celebrations that matter to you.
Yeah.
And that might differ between co-parents. And so what type of recommendations do you give to people when they're working out a plan that considers birthdays and holidays?
Yeah. It's difficult, right? Because I don't think you have children thinking that you won't be able to be with them on their birthday or on Christmas Day. And so it can be emotional to think about that, how traditions are changing.
Yes.
I think having a detailed parenting plan is probably one of the safest routes. So there's no discrepancies moving forward.
There's no discussion. It's in black or white.
Yeah. So detailed as pickup time, drop-off time, location, what happens if someone wants to take a trip over a holiday, what happens if a birthday happens over a holiday, because sometimes that can run into each other too. So a birthday could happen over March break, and you have two separate rules, one for March break, one for birthdays, and then what do you do?
Right. So there's so much to think about.
Yeah. And I think you need to know your situation. You need to know your ex, and you need to know yourself, and obviously what's best for the children. So there are different ways. I think my experience when I've had clients, some will split the day. They will have 2:00. They switch. I've had clients say, "No, I don't want to share a day because my ex will do something to ruin my half of the day." Some recommendations are you just follow whatever the parenting plan is, whatever day it falls on. And sometimes, again, thinking of how old your children are and what their feedback are, what do they like? What do you think they would want? There's a difference between a 2-year-old and a 15-year-old. So,
and maybe certain holidays matter less to the other parent. So that's an opportunity to have it in a plan where you're negotiating that
mm-hmm.
back and forth. And I love how you talk about, did the kids want to go back and forth on their birthdays or Easter? What looks best for them? And, sometimes you have to take a really hard look and say, we used to be a family unit, but maybe a birthday's on a Monday, and we wouldn't have celebrated on the Monday anyway. We would have celebrated on the weekend with everybody. So sometimes you have to take an inward look and then figure out, why are you doing this? Is this about you or is this about the kids? But I know that you've come up against lots of different scenarios that you have to consider.
Yeah, and I think, things can change when you separate. Traditions are going to change, and you may have an ex that doesn't really mind not being there on that day, and then you may have someone that wants to be involved. Usually in high conflict situations, sharing the day together, having a party together doesn't usually work. It's not recommended. Obviously, that would be an ideal world, an ideal of a child. But in a high conflict situation, you're likely going to be doing two separate celebrations. And putting whatever you can in detail in your parenting plan and knowing your situation too. So what might work for your friend or someone else for your situation.
And I think that parenting plan is so important because if it's all laid out, it causes less battling contention. But I also think working with a divorce coach allows you to think about the different scenarios because maybe we wouldn't have thought about all of those scenarios. And you have to then pick what works best for both of you.
And then also, what are you going to do if the parenting plan isn't followed? Because that happens a lot in high conflict situations too. So you can put whatever you want in the parenting plan. You can agree at that moment, but sometimes when the day comes, there's a whole different situation that takes place.
And what are some of the ramifications for not following a parenting plan?
We would be here for a long time if we talked about that. Some things, you have to, again, it's one of those, you choose your battles. So it depends on the circumstance, how far you want to take it. Do you want to take it to court for contempt? Is it something that you document and kind of accumulate examples and then you take it to court?
To be able to make change later.
Yeah, to make changes. Do you go back to a mediator? Do you find a parenting coordinator? So, and then some things, though, you have to, with a high conflict you just have to accept it, that sometimes they're not going to follow it. And do you want to be engaged in that and be brought down, or are you going to just carry on and kind of accept that this is how it's going to be sometimes? And you choose kind of your peace over getting sucked into the back and forth retaliation.
And that peace part is so important because that's what helps you heal after a significant change in your relationship, is finding that peace. And maybe you're not going to find that with collaborating with your ex-partner. You have to find that yourself.
Yeah.
And really thinking about how important is certain holidays to us as a family.
Yeah.
And taking that step back, saying, okay, I'm going to collect my thoughts and I'm going to let today happen, because you don't want to ruin that for yourself either. You don't want to get caught up in that drama. You really want to then, when the kids do come back, enjoy your time with them.
Yeah. And I mean, making new traditions too. That's something that I did for myself. Those first holidays, the first year, it was different. It was difficult at some times, but I was like, what can I do new with the children? And so we had some new traditions, and they look forward to it each, and they have new traditions with their father as well. So,
and that's the exciting positive side of the change that's just happened, and that's the piece that we need to remember, is there is a lot of positivity happening, and if you can focus on the kids and come up with those new traditions, that's pretty special.
It is, yeah. In high conflict situation, maybe not.
Maybe not.
It's more difficult. But it's not hopeless, though. It's not hopeless.
And that's an important piece, too, is that there is light at the end of the tunnel. And divorce coaches can help you with that and seeing all aspects of it. So, Nicole, thank you for sharing your information and your knowledge with us today. We really appreciate it.
And that's today's episode of Put Down the Mascara. Before we sign off, I want to drop a friendly reminder your way. While we do our best to bring you helpful insights, stories, and perspectives on this podcast, I want to make it clear that we're not here to replace counselors, advisors, and experts. Remember, education and empowerment are journeys we embark on together, and seeking guidance from experts along the way is great for your personal growth. Thanks again for tuning in to Put Down the Mascara. We can't wait to have you back next time. Your feedback, stories, and suggestions keep us going and fuel our passion for empowering women everywhere.